In 18 days, Louisville football will kick off their season in Nashville against Ole Miss. Today, I'm continuing my series where I break down the Louisville football team position by position. And today, we're focusing on the defensive tackle. All right, we're going to start off with Demeco Kennedy. He will wear number 2 this year. He's going to go into his 3rd season, which means he'll have 2 more afterwards after this of eligibility. He's listed at 6'3", 300. That's probably more like 6'2", 285. He's a Lexington native. If you know, you know. I think he played at Bryan Station. He played 2 years at Purdue, though. He started in 4 games, but he played in 21 games. He played immediately as a freshman at Purdue. Not a great team, but still, reps are reps, especially in the Big Ten. And he had 27 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. He's a 3-tech. Now, he did play a decent bit of nose at Purdue, but he'll be a 3-tech here for sure. And what he doesn't have in size, like I said, he is a smaller guy for the position at only 285. He does make up with a quick twitch, a quick first step, and he's got quick hands as well. But he needs to continue to add strength and just size and to his base at minimum, just to compete at this level against bigger offensive linemen. Consistently anyway. Not that he can't compete now, but just to be better all around and more consistent, I'd like to see him add more strength. But I do think he's going to be in line to be the starting 3-tech here, especially going to be out there in pass rush situations as a defensive tackle as well. If you watched my last video on defensive ends, I did mention that Dillon Smith is someone I think could play 3-tech and excel very well at that. But for now, I believe Demeco Kennedy will be the starting 3-tech against Ole Miss. All right, up next, we got Joshua Donald. He'll wear number 95. He's going into his 5th and final season. He's listed at 6'3", 310. This will be his 4th school. So he started at Southern University. Then he transferred to App State, where he had his best season yet. Last season, he transferred to Houston, but he did not play for a couple different reasons listed online I won't get into because I don't know which one's true. But like I said, he sat out his lone season at Houston, but in 2024, I believe, at App State, he had 27 total tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks in 10 starts. And then the tape from that, he's got a really solid base as a defensive tackle. You know, when you're an interior defensive tackle, when you're going to be playing nose, your job is to be disruptive and eat blocks. Stand your ground, extend at the point of attack so you can shed blocks. And if you're getting double teamed, like I said, stand your ground, plug holes, plug gaps so linebackers can come and fill in behind you and make tackles uncontested because you're holding up 2 offensive linemen at the same time. And he does a good job. He's got a very solid base. He's got a strong lower body. And like I said, he's got decent arm strength and arm length so he can shed offensive linemen because he can get good extension at the point of attack and shed when needed. He also has some pretty good acceleration laterally across the line. He's made some plays as a 3-tech on the left side and made tackles, out in the offensive tackle range on the right side of the line. So he's got a little bit of athleticism there as well. He does need to show consistently that he can do it at this level, especially not having played it for Houston last year. But I think Donald will compete at the nose position with the guy I'm going to talk about next. But he'll definitely be in the 2 deep regardless. All right, I think there's a clear top 3 when it comes to the defensive tackle room, and the third person I'm going to talk about today is Daylen Russell. So Daylen Russell will wear number 90 this year. He's also going into his 3rd season. He's listed at 6'3", 300 pounds. He's a former high school defensive end. He was like a highest 3-star coming out of high school who spent 2 seasons at Miami where he transferred to he transitioned to defensive tackle and sat behind one of, if not the best defensive line unit in football the last 2 years in college football. He's a former high school teammate of TJ Capers, someone that we were actually in on pretty heavily out of high school, but he ended up going to Miami. But he's here now, obviously. He's still a bit green as an interior defensive lineman, just where he's been, an edge rusher or an edge defender his whole career besides these last 2 years. But in the limited playing time that he got this year as a reserve, kind of like 3rd string defensive tackle at Miami, he did show some nice things on tape. He's got long arms, and he extends very well. And he got into some bull rushes that he didn't seem like he was overextended, but he when you have long arms as a defensive tackle, this is why they measure arm length, and it's important, especially for O linemen, because if your arms aren't very long, And if you're going against a defender whose arms are longer than yours and they get up in your chest and they extend, you can't do anything because you can't replace, you can't rip, you can't get your hands out because this D lineman has his hands in your chest plate pushing you up and you can't reach him. And Daylen has long arms and he's good at extending. And he's got strong hands and he's shed old lineman. Now, he didn't play against the greatest competition. He played late in games, but he showed some things that I think, in my opinion, he might have the highest ceiling of the three guys I've mentioned so far. He's just got to put it all together. And I think he's going to be in contention to be the starting nose along with Josh Donald. And regardless, he'll be, and like I said, just like with Josh Donald, he'll be in that 2 deep. But I'm kind of bullish on Daylen and hope he can put it all together because the room needs it. All right, like I was saying, it's really just a 3-person room, in my opinion, of like the best available guys. But there are 4 more here I want to mention. And that's not including, obviously, Jared Smith, who I talked about earlier, who I think can play defensive end and defensive tackle. But others in the mix are Tommy Zeismer. He'll wear number 96. He's listed at 6'2", 300 going into his 4th season. He played 2 years at Kentucky. Poor guy. And then he played last year at EKU, and now he's here. Bailey Abercrombie, someone who went very under the radar as a high school player. We got his commitment pretty late in the cycle of 24, I believe. Maybe it was a 25 class. He'll wear number 93. He's 6'3", 295 going into his 2nd season. And you have Keon Webb, who's a JUCO transfer. He'll wear number 91 this year. Now, he's listed at 6'5", 300. I think he's more like 6'5", probably 320, maybe 330. So he does have a body type that no one else in the room has. And like I mentioned earlier, when you're a nose, your job isn't just to be a big motherfucker, but your job is to be in the A gap and eat blocks. You know, just because you're big doesn't mean you're going to excel at that, but it goes a long way. So he could see his way into playing time just by being bigger and more physical than everyone else in the room. But he's got to obviously show that to the coaches and earn his way onto the field. And then also Dillon Smith, going into his 2nd season, is transitioning to defensive tackle. He was more of a tweener tackle defensive end coming out, and he's listed at 6'4", 285. But that is the defensive tackle room. And so my position grade for the defensive tackle room is unfortunately a C+, which I believe is the lowest grade I've given so far. And you could argue it could be a C. You know, Louisville's defensive line is going through a pretty big transition this year. Actually, every year under Jeff, the interior D-line has had a bit of turnover, whether we've had guys transfer out, whether we've had guys transfer in. But Coach Hagan, who's no longer here, I believe was very good at his job because we had guys who, you know, transferred. Renee Conga transferred from Rutgers and was a backup there, and he was 2nd team All-ACC here and did great. We had a bunch of guys who were not highly recruited or not highly touted out of the portal who came in here and were very, very solid interior defenders. If that wasn't just on Hagan, and that's more of just a scheme and a coaching all-around kind of thing, then we can have that repeat itself again this year. We have Demeco Kennedy, that wasn't highly rated out of the portal. You know, Josh Donald, who wasn't highly rated out of the portal. Daylen Ross, so you get it, the same thing. But for right now, we just don't have, at minimum, you don't have that name recognition. And we have a lot more ifs than we do, you know, guarantees in this room. I do think that top 3 is solid. I do think the defensive ends and the linebacker core and the secondary, who I think are all very good, can hide some of that. But the guys in the room are definitely going to need to step up. So again, my position grade for the D tackles right now is a C+. And as always, these videos are made in partnership with the 1912 Society. Check out their app. It's in the link in my bio. And I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.